Okay. All right. It's 11:15. All right. Let me see here for real quick, Mackenzie. All right. I'm about to look at the birds. They don't need to plan to harvest. Worries at a single moment to your life? Of course not. Can all your worries? Yeah. All right. Verse 27. Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? Of course not. So that's kind of what he was saying. I mean, just the way he put it was, obviously with the birds and all that stuff. Um, you know, so obviously, you belong to him. There's nothing to worry about. Kind of like what I was saying before. He will come through, and he will. He will come through. Um, Again, maybe not the way that you expect him to, or maybe not the way that you want him to, or maybe not on your timetable. Maybe it will be on your timetable. Maybe it will be exactly or even better than you expected it to, but maybe it will be completely different or completely opposite, and it will not be on your timetable. Like, you have to understand, I mean, God does not exist within time. God created time, but he does not exist within time. He is outside of time. Time is God's creation. God does not, so let me see here. Okay, going on verse 28. And why worry about your clothes? Look at the lilies and how they grow. They don't work or wait. They don't work or make their clothing. So that's just another example, he's just basically just kind of, reiterating verse 25, 26, and he pretty much kind of summed it up in 27, and then 28 he kind of began reiterating it again. Like the verses 25 and 26 and 28 basically kind of sort of mean the same thing. But that is true. That is true. Like, again, I mean, it's one thing to read a verse in the Bible, and just because you haven't lived a certain verse, it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means, I mean, it is what it is. But these verses here, I could definitely tell you for certain that, it is what it is. So, I mean, he will come through for somebody, especially if somebody belongs to him and all that stuff. And then 29 says, yet Solomon in all his all his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. He's talking about the lilies. So I guess you can pretty much understand what is going on there. Let me see. And then he goes on to say, okay, wait. That was definitely all right. And Solomon in all his glory. All right. And then verse 30 says, let me see here. And if God cares so wonderfully for flowers, wait, where am I? I just completely lost my place. All right, because I'm saying this writing is so, like, if you saw this writing here in this lighting, man, oh man, it's very, very, very hard for me to see. And I'm not somebody who can't see up close. I can see up close. If anything, from far away, I have a bit of a problem. I mean, not too much. My eyes are pretty much okay. I mean, they're not 20/20, but I mean, it's not like I have horrible eyes or anything like that. At least not yet. But I mean, up close, I'm fine. It's just this lighting is crazy. Wow. Okay. Verse 30. And if God cares so wonderfully for flowers that wait, and if God cares so wonderfully for flowers that are here today and gone tomorrow, won't he more surely care for you and have you so little faith? So again, he's basically just kind of saying the same things in 25 and 26, and 28, and like I said in 29. Yeah, I mean, he's basically telling people to just, have faith, because if you belong to him, he will come through. So that's basically what the section is. He's basically telling you, there's no reason to be anxious because you can't control the future. And especially if you belong to him, that at that point, he's the one steering the ship. So, I mean, again, we're human and things happen and situations happen. And I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't been anxious. Of course I have. Um, you know, so, but when you get, when you get anxious, um, but yeah, I mean, you can't change the future at all. So I mean, and it's so easy for somebody to sit there and say that, you know, because it is what it is. I mean, we're human and we're all susceptible to all sorts of things, confusion, anxiety. I mean, anxiety is basically fear of the unknown. That's the way I see it. You're basically at that point. I mean, I'm not saying anxiety is the fear of unknown, but in a lot of ways it is. I mean, sometimes like exactly what's happening, and it causes you anxiety. So there's different types of anxiety. Sometimes you're in a situation you don't even really fully understand the situation, or maybe you do understand the situation, and the situation is just so awkward it just makes you anxious. You know, so there's different ways to be anxious and there's different reasons to be anxious, but um so like, I mean, but if um you can't really predict the future, and they say that 90 something percent of what people worry about, it's never going to happen anyways. So I mean, according to that statistic, I mean, anxiety is pretty much all up in your head, you know um and that's pretty much, in a way, kind of, sort of, what God is talking about here. I mean, he's not coming out and saying it's all up in your head. I mean, again, I mean, sometimes things happen and you're anxious for a good reason, but most of the time, according to that 90 something percent statistic, I mean, it is what it is. Um, but I heard that from somewhere, from more than one place. Actually, recently I heard that. I don't know. I don't really get into all psychology or anything like that. I don't even know where it came from. Um, Maybe I saw it somewhere on social media somewhere. I don't even know. Who knows? Who cares? That's just what I heard. Who knows how true that is? I don't know. But I do know that a lot of times we get anxious over something that never happens. I mean, you know, you've been on you've been in this planet on this planet for 16 and a half years. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about by saying that by now, right? Um, let me see here. All right, verse 31 says, so don't worry about having enough food or drink or clothing. Basically the same thing. He's telling you. He's just giving you different, scenarios. Kind of, sort of. He's just basically saying again, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Um, and then verse 32 says, why be like the pagans who are so deeply concerned about these things? Your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. That's verse 32. So what he's saying, the pagans are people who, well, back in those, like the religious people, those are pagans. or like pagan religion. I mean, religion, like, put it this way: if you're not honoring the real God, the God of the cross, then you're living in, that's pagan worship. That's just, pagan means you're just worshiping a false god. It could be anything. Um, that's what paganism is. It's a false god. You know. Let me see here. And then somebody might say, "Well, that's pretty shallow to say. I mean, that's just your your belief. Like, why would you sit there and say that somebody else is wrong and you're right? Somebody might say that somebody might hear me say that and say a lot of things, and I'm sure a lot of people would. But like I said, that's fine. I'm not even one to argue. I don't reply to people who argue. I just walk away from arguments. I don't care to argue. I don't make time for arguments. It is what it is. It's not about being hard. It's not about being hard-headed or not open to, you know, hearing. Sure, I'll hear what people have to say, but I mean, like I said, I've experienced hard changes in my life. In my whole family is religious, so I know the difference. You can't sit here and tell me that I don't know the difference between religion and what I'm talking about. My whole family is religious. I know exactly what it's like to go into a Catholic church, bow down before a statue, and you know, my mother says the Hail Mary every day. But then she turns around and says that she believes in Jesus. Like, what? You know, no. You know, I'm just saying religion is religion, and that's, so I mean, hey, look, I mean, like I said, I don't argue with people. I just don't do it. I don't make time for it. To me, it's just like, I don't know. It's not that I'm too good for anybody. It's just like, I don't even care to. I don't even care to. It just doesn't interest me, man. I just ignore it. You know, I mean, if somebody argues with me, I just assume hang the phone up, or not reply to them or something. I just ignore people, man. I don't argue. There's no reason to argue. I mean, I'm a talker. I'd rather talk things out, but arguing and stuff, like, nothing gets resolved, man. There's just no point. But I mean, like, a lot of people would want to argue with me by saying that, because people say that there's saying stuff like that is just closed minded. But like I said, I say that God of the cross is the real God, because first of all, He atoned for our sins. Religious gods don't do that. Religious God, like I said, they say that you have a sin problem, but there's no solution. You're forgiven, as long as you do something. But then 5 minutes later, you mess up again. So you have to atone for that sin. Like, Jesus came down and died, and the God came down and died in the flesh. It's all forgiven from the east to the west. There's no more running around and being religious. No. That's law. You know? So that's all law. And that's what religion is. It's law. Islam is law. Catholicism is law. Mormonism is law. Jehovah's Witness, law. Hinduism, law. Buddhism, law. All those little weird little cults. I don't even know what those are about. You know? You know? It's just, so when you honor God of the cross, again, it's all one God. But that's when God will, God of the cross, there's sins that have to be, you have to be flushed. You have to, you have a fallen nature, and it has to be, forgiven and fixed. Religion ain't offering you that. So, I speak out of personal experience, because, like I said, I know what it's like to have a heart change. And religion didn't do that for me. So, I mean, again, people might argue with me. That's fine. But I'm just going with what I know. I'm not going with a belief or what I think. I know this to be true. Like, to me, this is fact. You know, I should be smoking cigarettes right now. I should be drinking soda right now. There's other things that I should be doing right now, but I ain't doing it. And religion didn't take that away from me. I didn't walk into a church and dump a bucket full of money in some basket and walk away, and all of a sudden, voila, I'm not smoking anymore. No. No.